What is .NET Core? See this diagram. .NET Framework and .NET Core are completely two different frameworks. Okay, Mono for Xamarin is also a different framework. It is used for developing mobile applications. All these frameworks are created by Microsoft only. Base class libraries are also different for all of these frameworks. Okay, from outside as a coder, you might think that base class libraries work very similar way for both .NET Framework and .NET Core. Yes, there are similarities, but still they are different for different frameworks. Okay. Now here are some final points about .NET Core. First is .NET Core is completely a new framework. Second, it's free and open source flat platform. Third, it is developed by Microsoft. That's it. What is .NET Standard? First of all, .NET Standard is not a framework, okay? Many think that it's a framework, which it is not. Then what it is? If you see this diagram, here we have three frameworks developed by Microsoft. Now all of these frameworks follow some common rules, or you can say some common set of APIs. These rules are called .NET Standard, and if any framework will follow these rules, then it will be called .NET Standard compliant. Okay, so the definition is .NET Standard is a set of rules that is common across all .NET frameworks. What are the advantages of .NET Core over .NET Framework? Or what is the difference between .NET Core and .NET Framework? Very important question. Let's try to explore one by one. First advantage is .NET Core is cross-platform, which means it can run in multiple operating systems like Windows, Linux or Mac OS. But .NET Framework can only be run in Windows operating system. Second advantage of .NET Core is it is completely open source, which means it is free to use, modifiable and distributable. Okay, whereas .NET Framework is not an open source. Companies have to purchase the license to run .NET Framework based applications on their servers. For students it's free. .NET Framework is also free, but not for companies. Whereas .NET Core is completely free, including for companies also. Remember, .NET Core framework is free, but the IDE Visual Studio is not free. Okay. Next advantage of .NET Core is hosting. .NET Core can be hosted in multiple servers like Kestrel, IIS, Apache or Nginx. Apache is like for Java Pro and Nginx is like for hosting Node.js application. Okay. But .NET Framework only supports IIS web server hosting. Another advantage is .NET Core have built-in dependency injection, which enables .NET Core applications to achieve loosely coupled design very easily, and reusable solution which are easy to test. That is also an advantage of a dependency injection. Now, if you are new to dependency injection and loosely coupled design, then I will explain them in my dependency injection question also. Now, when we say that dependency injection is inbuilt in .NET Core, that means you can easily configure it in .NET Core, right? But in .NET Framework also you can use dependency injection, but you have to do some complex coding for implementing dependency injection in traditional .NET Framework, okay? Now the last advantage is .NET Core supports multiple IDEs like Visual Studio, VS Code, Mac for, so multiple IDEs it can support. Whereas .NET Framework supports only one IDE, and that is Visual Studio. In some cases .NET Core is also faster than .NET Framework, that is we can say also. So these are the advantages and the differences between the .NET Core and the .NET Framework. What is the role of program.cs file in ASP.NET Core? Whenever you will create a blank ASP.NET Core application project, then you will automatically get this file program.cs. Okay, here is it, program.cs file. The first point is program.cs file contains the application startup code, meaning whenever any request will come from the client, first it will come inside this program.cs file. Then here we have this main method, right? This main method of the program.cs file is the entry point of the application. You can say like it is the first method which get executed for any request. Then this create host builder method will build and prepare the hosting servers like Kestrel and IIS, and then it will run and call the startup.cs class file with the help of this use startup method. Okay, startup.cs file is the next file to be executed in the request pipeline. Do not bother about this lambda expression if you are new to it. Just remember that the program.cs file, from there we are calling the startup class, and this is the code of startup class. Now this startup class have two main methods, configure services and configure method, which I will explain in upcoming questions. Okay, now one more thing, from .NET 6.0 the startup class code is merged into program.cs file only, and therefore there is no separate startup.cs class will be there, and program file will code will be something look like this. Then the configure services method is merged here, also the configure method also is merged here, meaning logical difference there is no difference, but just all the things are merged into this main method only. Great, I think now we have discussed enough about program.cs file. What is the role of configure services method? This method was there in the startup class of .NET Core like this. This is how we configure services, like inside the configure services method, services.add controller. Okay, from .NET 6.0 the same services are configured directly inside the main method of the program class file. Okay, now the question is, what is the purpose of adding these services like here inside the configure services method? Suppose let's take an example. Suppose you are creating one e-commerce application, and these are the basic services which are required for your application: cart, payment, multiple languages support. Now inside the configure service method you can add all these services like services.add payment, services.multiple languages, like this. But when one request will come, it will access only one or maximum two service, like either payment or either adding our item to the cart, but not all of them, right? So the request will use only one of these services and rest of them will be optional and will not be executed. That's why the execution of configure services methods are optional. Okay, it's not mandatory that all of them will be executed. In the screenshot here you can see we have added one service, add controllers with views, which will help controllers to run views in the application. Okay, but if client will request some HTML page like customer.html, then this service will not be executed, it's not required. So that's why configure services are optional. If you know about dependency injection, then you already know how to use configure services method to register the service dependencies. But yes, I will discuss them in dependency injection question. Finally, here are few points. Configure services is used to add services to the application. Next point is configure services method always execute before configure method. Okay. And the last point is configure services is an optional method. It's not necessary that all of its methods will be executed for a particular request. What is the role of configure method? In short, configure method will configure the request pipeline. See, this is the code of the configure method in a startup class. And these method app.use developer exception page, .use https redirection, app.use static files, etc are the part of the request pipeline. Okay, and configuring this methods is the role of the configure method. Okay, so from .NET 6.0 the configure method is also removed, and these methods are directly placed inside the main method of the program file. Okay, like this. Now few more points about things are configure methods execute after configure services method. Okay, for each and every request all the methods will execute inside the configure method in the same sequence. Therefore no method is optional here, like in the case of configure services we have that optional scenario, right? These methods are also, these configure methods are also called middleware components. See the diagram, how the request will come and how inside the configure method request pipeline, all the methods middlewares will be executed one by one. That's all about the configure method. Describe the complete request processing pipeline for ASP.NET Core MVC. Now here you can see the flow of the request in ASP.NET Core MVC. HTTP request will start from the middleware. Okay, we already saw middleware configuration in the configure method of the startup class. We already know that. Then after middlewares, then it goes for routing, meaning it will based on routing, it will decide which controller to go based on the controller name in the URL. Then request will initialize the controller, and then again based on the URL, it will decide which action method will be executed. Okay, so that is also from routing only, and then the result will be executed. After at last view will be rendered and the result as the response will be sent to the browser. That's it. It's very simple. Now in case of web APIs, only the view will not be there, but rest of the things will remain same. Okay, only the view will not be there. In web API, JSON string will be sent back as the response to the request. So this is like a very high level idea of what is the request processing pipeline in ASP.NET MVC Core. What is the difference between .NET Core and .NET 5? Now there are few points which we should remember about these two versions of .NET Core. So let's see them quickly. .NET 5 is the next major release by Microsoft after .NET Core 3.1. Now the thing is, the word core is dropped from the name to emphasize that .NET 5 is the future of all earlier versions of .NET Core. Okay, so core is removed from the .NET Core. Okay, and second point is Microsoft has introduced .NET 6, which is the latest version of the .NET Core. So that's it. It's basically .NET Core and .NET 5 are the same things. Just it's the latest version, and the core is removed from the name. What is meta package? What is the name of meta package provided by ASP.NET Core? Definition is meta package is a consolidated package of many dependencies. Okay, so here is the list of the dependencies which are consolidated in one meta package in ASP.NET Core project. And here is the screenshot. You can see the package name, the meta package name, and that is microsoft.aspnetcore.app. Okay, this is the meta package. It is automatically added in this application by the .NET Core framework only. What it helps is, it helps to do faster development, as you do not have to include all the individual dependencies or the packages one by one. Okay, so this is the short story about the meta package.